Have you ever seen a monument or a beautiful view? And you really hyped it up inside your head that when I'm going to look at this in real life, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be so amazing. I've always wished for that feeling of looking at it in real life. And you see it and you appreciate it for a bit, right? But there's a point where you're like, okay, I've seen it now. Now let's move on to something else. I can only be enamored or impressed by the visual of it all for so long. This is what I exactly felt during Heeramandi. I appreciate it, it's beautiful, but I am so bored. One of the most anticipated Netflix productions is finally here in the form of Sanjay Leela Bhansali's directed series Heeramandi. A series conceptualized by Bhansali's dear friend Moin Beg years ago and has finally reached fruition. I was really excited for this project because I wanted to see how a director so well versed with the format of feature films and having a track record of providing us such visual epics will assimilate in the digital space with his own series across 8 episodes. I can't help but confess to you, even before I really dive deep on several aspects of Heeramandi, that I was left with mixed feelings and I was slightly overwhelmed with disappointment on how this anticipated project turned out. Having shelled out quite the moolah, did Netflix just invest blindly in Sanjay Leela Bhansali? Seeing the lack of emotional resonance in this tale, it sure does feel like it. Heeramandi focuses on the period from 1925 to the early 1940s in Lahore, when the British Raj was prevalent in the country and the independence movement was gaining steam. The series especially sheds light on the lives of courtesans in a place called Heeramandi, who through poetry, music, dance and seduction satisfied the Nawabs who served the interests of the British. The series incorporates themes of espionage, murder, deceit, familial drama, a lust for power, nationalism, and attempts to showcase the growing resentment of Indians against the British as they continue their oppressive imperialist ways. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the series so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it on Netflix or not. The good. Production design and cinematography. No matter how cliche it sounds, Heeramandi, its frames and its sets are nothing short of a painting. This has stayed consistent with Sanjay Leela Bhansali's filmography with his romantic epics and period dramas, that you're going to get a spectacle that is a treat for the eyes. He is one of the only directors in the current environment of cutting corners who is adamant on detailing and spending ample time on every element that is visible to the eye in the frame. Production designers Amit Ray and Subrata Chakrabarti and cinematographers Sudeep Chatterjee, Mahesh Limai and Huitsang Mohapatra deserve so much praise. Even though I felt like certain portions of the series looked like an extension of the sets of Gangubai and the opulence we were witness to in Kalank, but the designs especially of the interiors of Shahi Mahal and Khwabgah, the two mahals in which the courtesans reside, is a work of beauty. The only deterrent I feel regarding the visual appeal of Heeramandi is that it looks too manicured, too perfect for its own good. So when battles are taking place in the streets against British officers, it just seems like a lane created on a stage set versus having a visceral quality of a story set in pre-independent India, a problem that existed in the artificial visual appeal of Ae Watan Mere Watan too. If the film was set just in Shahi Mahal, I would just be staring at the perfect symmetry, lighting and staging Bhansali was adamant in executing. The man left no stone unturned in making sure even the sun's rays fall perfectly in the frame. But as I said in my introduction, just like a beautiful view, this holds true for a date as well. With a beautiful woman, I can only be appreciative of that work of beauty for so long if it doesn't engage me intellectually or emotionally, even at the slightest, except Preeti Zinta, of course. She can talk about paint drying in her house, and I'll still listen like it's the most interesting story I've ever heard. Dichotomy of their existence and pitch. There is a fascination that Sanjay Leela Bhansali has for classical tales from Hindi cinema. These are his biggest inspirations, and you see them translating in several tales of his, both in terms of the journeys those characters go on and the pitch at which they interact with each other. I am speaking of legends like Madhubala and Meena Kumari, who of course in epics like Mughal-e-Azam and Pakiza had a deep sadness even in the abandon with which they loved. Bhansali loves tragedy in his tales, characters who look ethereal classical beauties but have a deep sadness from within. And this is something that he wants to constantly highlight with his characters in Heeramandi. The only possible theme, in my opinion, that I found compelling. The dichotomy of how courtesans who consider themselves to be artists are essentially treated as whores. Humans that may be visited but dare not come in the confines of our house. They deck themselves with beautiful clothes, makeup, and jewelry, all as a means of hiding the real feelings deeply embedded behind all of this garb. Other than this fascination that Bhansali has with tragedy queens, he is also the only director who still convincingly pulls off the soap opera-like pitch with his characters. Characters announce their plans even when no one is in the room. Sometimes they look over the camera to even announce their real intention. The same pitch with which Kiran Kher in Devdas confronts Devdas's mother for being mocked at publicly. The same pitch exists here, as courtesans trash talk one another with the most profound poetry. It often feels like you're transported to a rap battle in Urdu, where they deliver the best roasts, and this is something that Bhansali has held on to. He doesn't like understated realism in his drama or characters, but a sense of verbose delivery, reminiscent of, say, dramatic Shakespeare plays done in the Globe Theatre. For a person who is so good otherwise in his drama, especially when it's focused on interpersonal relationships, I wonder how Bhansali really could not deliver an emotional journey for me through this tale. I just passed by the show, not feeling anything. Conviction and choreography. I have to commend only a few elements of the cast because the performances are definitely a hit and a miss in this series. I really did fall in love with Fatto and Satto, played by Jayati Bhatia and Nivedita Bhargav. They are the caretakers of the Mahal who have their eyes and ears of every movement and development. The gossip mongers who wouldn't dare challenge their huzur. While they also take the shape of Lajjoji's crew from Kal Ho Na Ho, they brought an odd sincerity with their performances. This is true for Indresh Malik as well, who plays the role of Ustad, the roving eye. Loyal to no one, who spreads information and revels in the chaos of Heeramandi. He gets the pitch of a court jester dancing to the tunes of who gives the best price for his intel. I loved Richa Chadda as Lajjo, a deranged courtesan madly in love with a Nawab. She really channelized that alcohol-induced madness with ease. I have to also say, I genuinely think Manisha Koirala in terms of performances is the highlight of Heeramandi, a hardened individual who has suffered far too much to showcase any kind of empathy around her. She has a tough exterior, is intimidating in several portions when those in front of her cross the line, and she has a command on screen that makes me believe we have really been shortchanged with the lack of opportunity she has received as her career has progressed. I believe she deserves the same hype as Tabu. I also have to commend Bhansali, who seems to be the only director who has preserved the art of incorporating classical dance through his tales, and I really have immense respect for him for this because this seems to be a dying medium, especially in the commercial space of movies. Sakal Ban, both from a musical perspective and from a choreography POV, is beautiful. I also loved this brilliant one shot where Richa is balancing the act of being inebriated and still completing her dance performance. A tricky act to ace indeed. Aditi Rao Haidari has become the favorite for roles that capture her big eyes, that inadvertently undergo massive tragedy, and I do have to say that she brings a grace with her movement as well. As for the other performances, I'll be honest, they are really forgettable. Let's however dive deep on why I feel Heeramandi missed the mark. The underwhelming aspects. Unintentionally funny moments. There is definitely a glaring issue when Sanjay Leela Bhansali needs to capture anything that is not romantic or a dance routine. Especially portions of action in Heeramandi are staged and executed very poorly. There are portions where the brewing independence movement attempt to capture ammunition from the barracks of the British, and there is not even a slight bit of tension that sets in as the freedom fighters feel cornered in the mission. This is also true for a procession in which a British officer opens fire, and there is pure chaos that sets in. The external portions of the series, as I previously said, look like artificial sets and creates the same problem that we had with Kalank, where Sanjay Leela Bhansali is not taking us back to India under British rule, but a make-believe world which is the brainchild of Bhansali, where Bhansali's rules work and the British just happen to be there. This is something that you will especially feel in the picturization of the song Azadi, where it seems like the courtesans have entered the cobble streets of Bandra after mass versus curfew under British rule. There are definitely some unintentionally funny moments, especially the manner in which a British officer, Cartwright, extracts information from Ustad and the manner in which a principal character passes away in a carriage. I could not stop laughing in the anticlimactic nature in which such an important character was killed. In the pursuit of also making every frame so beautiful, it also lends the quality of looking slightly fake. The mixed impact of writing and the cast. The series has an odd combination of stale writing and subpar performances that disengage you as a viewer. I must say that Bhansali really starts the series with a bang. The way he introduces the world, the interpersonal relationship, provides us context about their history, it all immediately interests you. But it is when he goes in tangents after the 4th episode, especially of the boring relationship between Tajdar and Alam played by Taha Shah and Sharmin Sehgal, where the series really takes a nosedive into supreme boredom. The case of star-crossed lovers is something Bhansali is really well versed with, but I found myself struggling to care about the duo who throw average poetry at each other and get impressed by the last words of verses simply rhyming with the next. Taha Shah is charming, and I did love his portions with Farida Jalal, who organically makes you as a viewer wish she adopts you, but it's nothing more than looking dapper. His interest in the freedom movement, his interest in Alam, who is he at a core level, it's all just a blur. Sharmin Sehgal, for an actor who is just a film old, gets so much screen time, but other than looking beautiful, there is no impact with her delivery or emotional range. The nazakat, the sharmana, it's all too planned and stiff. It's tough to root for a performance and an artist who gets such a big opportunity and presents such a stale performance. I found myself caring more for the relationship between Saima and Iqbal more than these two. I also feel like Sanjida Sheikh, the most erratic of the courtesans, and Sonakshi Sinha with their own vested interests suffer the most because of bad writing, especially the abrupt turncoats they experience in the latter half of the series. Their Hriday Parivartans are so absurd, I can only go on a rant mode in the spoiler-filled portions of this review, which will be in the end, so be patient with me. The major problem with Heeramandi. I was seeing a recent interview that Siddharth Roy Kapoor gave to Film Companion, in which he said that India never experienced the golden age of television like the West. The West experienced decades of cable, syndication, the HBO Renaissance, and then encountered streaming. This same culture of long-form storytelling, which the West has been well versed with and has worked upon, was something we for years have only done during the small portion of the golden age of Doordarshan and for more than 2 decades with our terrible Saas Bahu serials. Streaming and long-form series is only something we got introduced to in 2016, and our directors who only know the art of feature films, it's not a muscle they have flexed, but simply something they went into head first. This is clear with Bhansali and Heeramandi, who with a feature film like Gangubai could effectively communicate the tale of an individual sold at the age of 16 years old, abused and tortured incessantly, being showcased to work for the cause of sex workers and their children to have the same opportunities in societies like everyone else. This, with the context of her horrid history with the lack of love and warmth in her life, became the core theme of the film that got communicated. However, with Heeramandi, Bhansali wanted to do a little bit of everything. Deceit, murder, investigations, loyalties being tested, family ego battles, and a lot of it is left unresolved. Nothing, however, is worse than how the series intends to wrap it up. Almost as if blue balling us, making us believe this is the core. The freedom movement. I love what Bhansali attempts with his frames and his preservation of classical music and dance, but this became a tiring watch for me. If you do not want to hear the spoiler-filled rant from me, you can click away now because it's going to start in 3, 2, 1. The final episode of Heeramandi frustrated me so much. The series invests you in a battle between courtesans who are bound by blood, and when Sonakshi wants only Manisha Koirala's destruction, when the same is executed, she starts fighting against this inhumane nature with which they are being treated. A character so hell-bent in ruining her suddenly has this moral dilemma as things go too far. The series then takes the shape of characters doing really bad things, their conscience kicking in, and wanting to backtrack all the poison that they have spilled across 7 episodes. This reminded me of the universal feeling when a friend tells you terrible things about their significant other. You get angry for them. You have an idea of their partner being toxic. All you want is for them to leave this relationship, only for them to be all over each other and in love the next time you meet, and now suddenly everything is fine. This is what Heeramandi will do to you by the end of it. The courtesans with the half-assed speech by Aditi saying "Mujre wali se mulk wali bano" is not because they particularly care about India's independence, but because Heeramandi is under threat and they are being boycotted by Nawabs. How am I supposed to suddenly feel that the courtesans have nationalism ingrained in them, while for 7 episodes all they cared about was for their coffers to be filled by the Nawabs? The random gusto of nationalistic fervor in the final portions of the series, barring Aditi's character who is consistent throughout the episodes, really annoyed me, especially the voiceover that almost announces them as the unsung heroes of the freedom movement. Like, what are you even trying to do? I wonder how Bhansali's tale with Heeramandi became so all over the place. Or was this just a way to relaunch your niece because no one saw her debut film? And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Heeramandi. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle is right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.